Hey, my friends, it's Bill MacDonald, the Reading and Writing Doctor. Today and for the next 6 days or so, depending on how long it takes me to do this, I want to focus on my practice tests that I've sent to all of you who signed up for the countdown to the test. And what I want to do is I want to go one grade level at a time through the 2 or 3 questions that gave your students the most trouble. Uh, so that we can see what maybe it is that your students are struggling with in terms of understanding the question because uh, as you see the glasses that I'm wearing today, the majority of the reading test, the reading questions, the actual points uh, in reading are going to be uh, regular multiple choice where there's going to be one question and 4 answers. Uh, and there's just a few more. If you look on the second page of your reading and writing guide, it shows you the number of multiple choice for elementary, for middle school, and high school, 3 breakdowns. That if you just go to page 2 and look at that, you'll see that the majority of the questions are just regular reading multiple choice questions that are worth 1 point, or there's going to be 1 point editing and 1 point revising, which will be 8, 8, and 8 for elementary, 9 and 9 for middle school, and approximately 11 and 11 for high school. So what I want to do is I want to take some time to look at uh, the most difficult 2 or 3 questions from each grade level in order, so that way all of you guys can get a chance. And what I suggest that you do if I'm working on a certain grade level and it's your grade level or the one below or maybe two below, I suggest you go ahead and look at the video so you can see what was it that caused those kids to struggle, because since these reading tests were taken in May in the previous years, it means that the students went to the next grade level with a weak understanding of whatever that skill was. So today's question is going to be from the uh, elementary test, and like I mentioned, I looked at the 54 questions for third, fourth, and fifth, and so I'm going to choose the for these next 3 videos, the 3 questions in third, fourth, and fifth grade that had the lowest percent, and I tried to make sure that the question that I asked and the way that I asked it was similar to the way it was on the test. And so, as you can see, I've broken paragraph 2 from my passage called Boom, the Eruption of Mount St Helens into bite-sized chunks, pieces of a paragraph, pieces of a puzzle, so that we could see, uh, if you notice, I have the questions to the right and the passage to the left, the way that it's going to be on the STAR test, so your kids can get used to looking left and right. And so I've aligned the questions with paragraph 2. And so it says paragraph 2 is mostly about. Now, I only had to read one paragraph, but for some reason on the 2019 test, question number 14, a readiness standard 3.13a, only 1/3, 33% being exactly 1/3, less than 1/3 of the students were able to get the idea of a mostly about or mainly about a summary paragraph. And so if you look at my hand in the corner, if this hand represents a paragraph 2, the summary is what are the details of just some of the passage, this one paragraph. And so we'll find out what it was that the kids struggled with. Okay. Letter A, it says the events that took place on April 19th. Well, you can see here that the very first sentence says on April 19th, the northern flank of the mountain began to bulge. So that was what happened on that day. And so what I did was I made sure that there was a distractor that was similar to one like this, the answer choice, just because a detail happens, a dum-dum happens on the first sentence, it doesn't mean that it's the topic sentence of a whole paragraph. Sometimes it's just a sequence of several things that happen. And when I noticed, like for this particular one, April 19th was just when this first part happens. It doesn't say that the rest of the things in paragraph two happened on April 19th. There was just, those were just the things that happened afterwards. And so we can't assume that date. And so because compared to the other choices, letter A is so vague, I would remove anything that's too vague. And also because all we know is that the first detail, the northern flank, the what, began to bulge the action. Okay. The previous eruption of Hawaiian volcanoes is only one detail in the whole paragraph. So that cannot be a mainly about. There's the previous eruptions, the first, second, third, fourth, the fifth detail, that it was going to behave like previous eruptions. And so they're only talking about this one eruption, the eruption of Mount St. Helens, and they were comparing it to the other details, just the other eruptions, just in this one detail of the second sentence. And so that won't be a main idea. But when I look at the third one, the idea that only one person, so I counted two details first and then the last detail. Let me show you those. Okay. There's the one person uh, telling more about him, a geology professor named Jack Hyde. And then the last detail, unfortunately, no one paid attention to his theory. He has a theory. Well, what is that theory? Let's look at the rest. Felt that Mount St. Helens was going to follow the patterns of other known volcanoes. Well, he's the one that said in paragraph two, he pointed out that it didn't have an open vent at the top. So apparently, Mount St. Helens was not like others. So if we use the acronym ARMS for reading, like we use ARMS for revising, add, remove, replace, move, ARMS for reading can be artists, remember, more, setting, or senses. And so your kids might draw a picture of what Jack Hyde is talking about, where it says that St. Helens did not have an opening, and it said the northern flank. And so if the kids were to be able to draw a picture of the mountain and then write north, north, south backwards, east, north, south, east, and west, then the side that would be marked north in your compass in the picture would have a bulge on it, but it would be on the side, the flank, the side. And so, and then of course, we would have the top part not have an opening. And so what he was saying, any pressure building up inside detail was going to be released dramatically, detail in some other way. So all of that was three details that it wasn't going to follow the patterns of other known volcanoes. So apparently, what the kids have to be able to realize is that all of these things, those three details, were basically uh, inside this part right here. That this guy, um, this person, made an observation that it was just Mount St. Helens was just structured differently than the other volcanoes. Okay. And the last letter choice that we're going to eliminate, it says the reason why many scientists don't listen to each other. Okay. It doesn't give any reasons. The scientists did not listen to this one person. So uh, we don't know how many scientists. We just know that the people who were there in charge for this particular volcano, they just happened to not listen to him. And so since that was only the last detail, you cannot pick one detail, and it's sort of similar to summary of a whole passage when you're just having to do the main idea or mostly about a paragraph. And so I think what happens is sometimes if the kids find one detail, they want to pick it, or if they look at the first sentence and it's got that detail, we have to make sure they understand that just because something is in the first sentence, the topic, it's not always a topic sentence being a main idea. It might be sometimes just the first sentence in a sequence of things that take place. Because like I said, we don't even know if all of these things took place on April 19th. We just know that that's when the bulge took place. And so all of those other things, the the conversation between the professor named Jack Hyde and all of the other seismologists could have taken place over the next several days or weeks because we can see here that in the very next paragraph, April 19th to May 18th, that was almost like a month away. So some time could have passed between the time that the bulge happened and the time that this part happened, where the north side, north flank, started to collapse. So just an idea. So I would suggest that you be careful when you're telling your students, do not just pick the first sentence of a paragraph. Do not just pick what they think is the topic sentence just because it happens to have the detail. The students have to physically count the details and see how many dum-dums work out with the smarty that is the answer choice. In this case, it was letter C, that we found 6 details that were similar or coincided with letter choice C and what it stood for. So that's what the third grade one was, and I'll go ahead and do that for fourth through 10th grade on the most difficult question each one, because I don't want you to just assign those practice tests to your students, because I'm worried that if they ended the year struggling with those, that means if they're a third grader, they probably are struggling with understanding the main idea of a paragraph and topic sentences uh, for some of the same reasons. And so I would suggest that you maybe have your students do some of the questions independently or with a partner, but because those questions, those percentages that you see on the third through 10th grade results were how they did when on their own, and it wasn't one district or one region or campus. Those were the state averages. And so I did that for all the questions for all the grade levels so your kids could practice questions that were pretty difficult for whatever reason um, for them and get a little bit better at discerning mainly about with your guidance and your direction. So mainly about means as many details as possible. If you only touch your thumb, uh, that first letter choice was only about the thumb. And so you can't pick something that's about one sentence when they ask what the whole paragraph was about. And I can feel my muscles moving. That means I've got to make sure that the answer that I pick, the smarty that I pick, has enough dum-dums from the whole paragraph. And so you might have the students be able to get dum-dums and smarties because some of the kids are really unmotivated right now. And so they have this little imaginary sign that says, have hunger, we'll do strategies for food. And so help them differentiate how many dum-dums can go with a main idea sentence, a smarty, and in the same way, for summary, it might take two, three, four, five sentences to find the best summary for a passage, depending on the grade level. So that's one way to help with third grade. Our next video will be helping fourth in their most difficult question. Thank you and goodbye.